How do you make 1,000 loaves before 6 with one broken oven and $400 left? Jay Foster held up the blue order sheet. 1,000 loaves today, between his father and Sabrina Wells, the former CEO who had placed a silver pen on the counter. Leon gripped the sagging oven door beside an empty tray as the red clock blinked down. You have 15 minutes to prove this is possible, Sabrina said. Jay swallowed. Dad, people are waiting to eat. 3 hours earlier, the bakery had been quiet enough for Leon to hear the fluorescent light buzzing above the sink. The room smelled of warm yeast, fresh paint, and the faint burned metal odor rising from the second-hand oven he had bought with nearly everything he had left. Jay stood on the safe side of the counter, pressing strips of tape across a hand-lettered open sign. Crooked, he said, tilting his head. Looks honest, Leon replied. He slid open the register drawer. Inside lay an envelope containing $400, the last of his savings after rent, permits, flour, and the used equipment. A sharp metallic crack sounded behind him. The lower oven hinge dropped, leaving the door hanging unevenly. Heat breathed through the gap against Leon's flour-covered wrist. He shut off the burner, wrapped a folded towel around the handle, and tested the seal without letting Jay come closer. The first loaf rested alone on a cooling rack, its crust deep brown and shining under the pale light. Through the front window, Leon noticed a woman sitting at the bus stop with 2 children. She broke a single packaged cookie into pieces, gave the larger halves away, then brushed crumbs from her empty palm as though she had already eaten. Leon lifted the loaf. Jay looked at the unopened register. That's the first one. I know. Leon carried it outside in a brown paper bag. The woman stood too quickly, embarrassment tightening her face. I wasn't asking. And I'm not asking you to, Leon said. He placed the warm bag in her hands and stepped back before gratitude could become humiliation. One child pressed his nose near the folded top and breathed in. Leon returned to the bakery without looking around to see whether anyone had noticed. A flour-stained recipe card protruded from his apron pocket, its softened corner marked by his late wife's handwriting. Before he could tuck it away, a black SUV stopped at the curb. Sabrina Wells entered in a cream-colored suit, carrying no assistant, only a blue sheet of paper and a silver pen. Her eyes moved from the damaged oven to the empty racks, then paused on Leon's towel-wrapped hand. Mr. Foster. Leon recognized her voice before he fully faced her. At the company, it had usually come through speakers during quarterly meetings. Ms. Wells. She placed the order on the counter. 1,000 loaves. Delivery by 6 o'clock. Leon read every line before touching the pen. How many families? 412. Required weight? 20 ounces each. Packaging? Food-safe paper, labeled by batch. What happened to your supplier? Sabrina's jaw tightened. We were told their flour inventory became unavailable this morning. All of it. That is what purchasing reported. Leon looked past her at the church across the street, then calculated production times on the back of a paper flour sack. One oven would take more than 20 hours. He would need multiple stations, trained hands, controlled proofing, and inspected equipment. Can you do it? Sabrina asked. Leon set down the pencil. Not in this room. He pointed through the window towards St. Thomas. But this room doesn't have to be the whole bakery. Sabrina gave him 15 minutes to produce a workable plan. As Leon reached for the phone, she opened the supplier summary on her tablet. For 1 second, the screen reflected in the bakery glass. Leon saw no mechanics report, no photographs, no vendor signature, and no emergency notice from the supplier itself. Only a 1-page statement prepared by the purchasing department claiming an entire flour network had failed before sunrise. Leon was still studying the supplier summary when the front door opened hard enough to make the brass bell strike twice. A broad white man in a charcoal overcoat stepped inside, followed by a younger employee carrying a red plastic tag and a narrow black case. Bruce Keller did not look at the bread, cooling on the rack. He looked at the used mixer beside the wall. Mr. Foster. Mr. Keller. We need to discuss your account. The fluorescent light hummed above them. Sabrina remained beside the counter, one hand resting near the blue order sheet, while Jay lowered the roll of labels he had been counting. Bruce removed a cream-colored notice from a leather folder and smoothed it flat with 2 fingers. Your payment is due at 4 this afternoon. If it is not received, the collateral listed in your agreement becomes subject to immediate recovery. His employee looped the red tag around the mixer handle. The plastic clicked shut with a small, final sound. Jay stared at it. Bruce followed the boy's eyes and softened his voice. This is not meant to frighten anyone. Sometimes responsible people have to accept when a plan is no longer sustainable. Leon stepped between Jay and the machine without making it look like a shield. Jay, check whether we have enough batch labels for 50 loaves. I already counted them. Count them once more for me. Jay hesitated, then carried the labels into the back room. Leon waited until the door had nearly closed before turning back. My agreement says payment is due by close of business. Our system shows 4. Then I would like a copy of the system entry. Bruce gave a patient smile, the kind used on someone expected to misunderstand paperwork. You bake bread, Mr. Foster. Let us allow the finance office to interpret the contract. He said it gently, but Sabrina's eyes shifted from Bruce's polished cuff links to Leon's flour-marked hands. Leon did not answer the insult. He took out his phone, photographed the notice, then asked Bruce to sign and date the copy he was leaving behind. Before Bruce could respond, the bell sounded again. Diana Moore entered wearing a Navy County jacket and carrying a metal clipboard. Her perfume reached the counter before she did, sharp and floral against the smell of yeast. Good morning. Routine food safety review. We opened less than an hour ago, Leon said. Then this should be simple. She moved directly behind the counter without asking where the hand-washing station was. She passed the calibrated thermometer Leon had laid beside the sink, ignored the new plumbing receipt taped under the shelf, and stopped at a narrow crack partly hidden behind a rolling rack. This flooring defect can hold moisture. It was sealed yesterday. I will determine whether it was sealed adequately. She then pointed to a bottle whose paper label had peeled at one corner and a ceiling bulb without a plastic shield. Each flaw was small. Together, in her calm voice, they sounded like a kitchen already dangerous. Diana placed a pre-printed notice on the counter and told Leon the bakery could be suspended pending correction. Sabrina picked up the sheet but did not defend him. Are these violations enough to stop production? My responsibility is public safety, Ms. Wells, not the success of a private contract. A tablet on the counter chimed. Stephen Grant appeared on Sabrina's screen from a bright corporate office, his silver tie perfectly centered. Sabrina, I strongly recommend you step away from this arrangement. On what basis? Operational exposure. He has not begun the test batch, which is precisely why we should limit the damage now. Stephen's tone carried concern rather than contempt. He described Leon as hardworking but emotionally resistant to oversight, a former employee who confused disagreement with integrity. Leon said nothing. He folded a clean kitchen towel over the red collection tag so Jay would not see it when he returned, then placed Bruce's notice, Diana's inspection sheet, and the blue order form in a straight line across the counter. I need 10 minutes, he told Sabrina. For what? A production plan you can verify. Bruce gave a quiet breath that almost became a laugh. Mr. Foster, numbers will not repair an oven or change a county finding. Leon looked at him. No. But numbers remember when people change them. For the first time, Sabrina's expression tightened. She looked again at Diana's report, not at the list of violations but at the top right corner. The printed inspection time read 8:42 a.m. The bakery's wall clock showed 9:17, and the security camera above the door had recorded Diana walking in less than 6 minutes earlier. Leon saw the same thing just as Stephen said. Too quickly. Timestamp errors happen all the time. How did Stephen know which detail they were looking at when no one had read it aloud? Stephen's answer hung in the bakery for half a second too long. Leon looked from the inspection time to Sabrina's tablet, but he did not accuse anyone. He simply turned Diana's report face down, slid his phone beneath it to preserve the exact position, and said, Jay, leave the camera running. Jay nodded, more serious than an 8-year-old should have needed to be on opening day. Did Mr. Grant see the paper? I don't know. But he knew. Leon rested one hand briefly on his son's shoulder. The contact was small, almost hidden by the counter, but it steadied them both. Noticing something isn't the same as proving it, he said. The bell over the door gave a softer ring. The woman from the bus stop had returned, holding the brown bread bag against her coat and 3 folded dollar bills between 2 fingers. Her children waited outside the glass, tearing warm pieces from the loaf. Sir, I can pay something, she said. Not all of it, but something. Leon saw how carefully she had folded the bills, as if neatness might protect her dignity. He opened the bag, placed the money inside, and handed it back without counting. There's an older gentleman in the brick apartments behind the laundromat, he said. Mr. Ellis. He can't make it to the pantry on his own. Would you take him half the loaf? She stared at him. You're asking me for help? I am. Her shoulders lowered. She was no longer a woman receiving charity in front of strangers. She was someone trusted with a delivery. I can do that. Thank you. Bruce watched from beside the mixer, his mouth tightening with the faint impatience of a man observing poor arithmetic. You have a payment due in a few hours, he said. Giving inventory away is not a business plan. Leon folded the towel more carefully over the red collection tag. Neither is making hungry people explain themselves. He did not look toward Sabrina after saying it. That was what made her look at him. The bakery remained painfully quiet after the woman left, except for the oven cooling with slow metallic ticks. Leon reached into his apron for the pencil stub he had used earlier. His fingers caught the edge of the old recipe card instead. He pulled it free, brushed flour from the softened paper, and read the faded line in his wife's handwriting. Feed people first. For a moment, the room narrowed to the pressure of the card between his thumb and forefinger. He remembered her writing it at their kitchen table while Jay slept in a bassinet nearby, correcting the word people because her first attempt had leaned into the grease stain. He returned the card to his pocket before the memory could ask more of him than he had time to give. His phone vibrated. Father Thomas was calling from St. Thomas Church across the street. The kitchen is closed, the priest said. The gas system hasn't been fully cleared. How many ovens? 3. One hasn't run in 8 months. Another has a service tag nobody completed. If I open that room, someone has to take legal responsibility. Send me the form. Leon, that means your name. I know what it means. Father Thomas was silent. And when this order is done, Leon continued, we bake 40 more for the pantry. No charge. Sabrina looked up from the blue order sheet. I can increase the rate if you dedicate all available capacity to our delivery. Leon took the paper, wrote one sentence beneath the packaging terms, and turned it toward her. 40 additional loaves reserved for the St. Thomas pantry, produced after the contracted order, not billable to the company. That reduces your margin, she said. It keeps a promise. This contract could save your bakery. Then it should not begin by taking food from someone who has less than I do. Sabrina read the amendment twice before signing with her silver pen. She still had not decided whether Leon could produce 50 loaves, much less 1,000. But she had begun to understand that the rules inside his bakery did not change according to who held the larger check. The door opened again, and Evelyn Carter stepped in carrying an old canvas tool bag and wearing a wrist brace beneath one sleeve. Thomas said, you need hands. I need your judgment, Leon said. He placed the fermentation chart in front of her instead of directing her toward the flour sacks. You control proofing, humidity, and timing. Evelyn looked down at the chart, then at him. You remember my hands aren't what they were. Your hands know more than mine. Jay returned with the batch labels and saw the recipe card peeking from his father's pocket. He gently pulled it free and taped it beside the production board. So nobody forgets, he said. A new email arrived on Sabrina's tablet before she had told the purchasing department about the amendment. Stephen's subject line read, Unauthorized charitable leakage. Sabrina looked from the message to the handwritten pantry clause that only 4 people in the bakery had seen. And for the first time, Leon's small act of kindness no longer looked separate from the mystery. It looked like the first thing someone inside the company was desperate to control. The email accusing Leon of unauthorized charitable leakage reached Sabrina less than a minute after she signed the pantry clause. She turned the tablet so the words faced him. "Did you send this amendment to anyone?" "No." "Did Father Thomas?" "He hasn't seen it yet." The bakery slowed around them. Evelyn's pencil stopped above the fermentation chart. Jay held a strip of labels against his chest, and the old oven clicked as its metal cooled. Sabrina's eyes moved from Leon to the front camera, then to the blue order sheet beneath her silver pen. "Stephen monitors contract changes," she said. It was a reasonable explanation, but her voice had lost some of its certainty. Leon did not argue. He photographed the email subject line, noted the arrival time, and returned the tablet without touching anything else on the screen. "Ask the system when he opened the amendment," he said. "Why?" "Because you haven't uploaded it." Sabrina's fingers paused over the glass. The handwritten clause existed only on the paper between them. Before she could answer, the doorbell rang and Ahmed Khan entered carrying no flour, only his phone and a printed cancellation notice. Cold air followed him inside, lifting one corner of the red collection tag hidden beneath Leon's towel. Ahmed glanced at Bruce, Diana, and the corporate face still visible on Sabrina's tablet. "Maybe we should speak privately." "Whatever concerns my order concerns this room," Sabrina said. Ahmed looked to Leon. Leon nodded once. "The flour I reserved for you was cancelled 20 minutes ago," Ahmed said. "Cancelled by whom?" "The distributor says your bakery was marked as a contract risk by one of their corporate partners." Bruce folded his arms. "That sounds like standard risk management." Ahmed placed the notice on the counter. The paper carried the sour smell of fresh toner, and a faint gray line ran down one side where his aging printer drum had caught. "I confirmed the order yesterday," he said. "It was paid for. Deposits can be reversed," Diana replied. "No one is being targeted." Leon drew the notice closer but did not lift it. Beneath the cancellation reason was a reference code printed in narrow black type. SG-17. His thumb stopped beside it. Sabrina noticed. "What is it?" Leon reached beneath the register and removed a worn document envelope. He did not open it dramatically. He simply slid out the first page of his old termination packet and placed it beside Ahmed's notice under the fluorescent light. The same code appeared near the top, SG-17. Sabrina looked from one page to the other. That could be a shared classification code. "It could," Leon said. Stephen's face remained calm on the tablet. "It is. Standard operational exposure." Leon turned his head slightly. "For employee discipline and wholesale flour cancellation?" Stephen's jaw shifted, almost too little to see. "The code may cover multiple risk categories." Sabrina did not defend him, but neither did she accuse him. She asked Ahmed to open the original email rather than the printed copy. Ahmed tapped through the message header while Leon watched without taking the phone. A relay address appeared near the bottom, partially hidden behind a drop-down arrow. It belonged to the corporate mail system used by Sabrina's company. "Can forwarded mail preserve that address?" Sabrina asked. "Sometimes," Ahmed said. "Then it proves contact, not authorship." Leon nodded. "That's fair." Bruce gave a faint smile, as though the room had finally returned to reason. "A code and an email route do not make a conspiracy." "No," Leon said. "They make two things worth preserving." He asked Ahmed not to forward the message, crop the screen, or rename the file. Instead, he photographed the full header, wrote down the time, and had Ahmed save a second copy to the store server. Jay tugged gently at Leon's apron. "Dad, what is it?" "My opening video." He held up the small camera he had used for his school project. "I got the sign, and then that lady's car came." Diana's shoulders stiffened. "Children's videos are not official inspection records." "He didn't say they were," Leon replied. Jay pressed play. The footage shook as the handwritten open sign filled the screen, then tilted toward the wall clock. It read 9:13. A moment later, Diana's county vehicle pulled up outside. Jay's own voice whispered from behind the camera, "The inspector is here." Sabrina looked at the report again. 8:42 a.m. The device clock could be wrong, she said, still careful. Jay frowned. It matched the red clock when Dad set it this morning. Leon crouched beside him. "That's enough, buddy. Save the original." He did not ask Jay another question. He did not let anyone turn the boy into a witness at the counter. Sabrina quietly requested an independent metadata review and typed the message herself rather than sending it through purchasing. 6 minutes later, Stephen called her phone. His first words were not about the order, the ovens, or the missing flour. "Sabrina, you are wasting valuable time investigating SG-17. She slowly raised her eyes from the phone. No one had told him they were investigating that code. Stephen's words left a clean, unnatural silence behind them. Sabrina lowered the phone without answering. "How did he know?" Jay whispered. "We don't know yet," Leon said. "Save the video." Sabrina sent the original file to an outside legal team, ordered her staff not to delete any vendor records, then turned back to Leon. Her expression had changed, but not into trust. "You still have to prove you can produce safely," she said. 50 loaves. Same weight, same internal temperature. Full sanitation log. Leon folded the blue order sheet and placed it beside his wife's recipe card. "That's fair." 20 minutes later, the kitchen at St. Thomas smelled of dust, cold steel, and old pilot lights. Sunlight passed through narrow basement windows and fell across 3 industrial ovens that had not worked together in years. Evelyn stood at the proofing table with her wrist brace visible beneath her sleeve. Father Thomas held the facility binder. Jay sat safely beyond the taped floor line, numbering paper labels with a black marker. Sabrina watched from near the doorway, her coat still buttoned. Leon checked the first oven, then the second. When Father Thomas reached for the ignition switch, a thin, high whistle slipped through the room. It was barely louder than escaping steam. Leon raised one hand. "Don't turn it on. We're already behind," Sabrina said. "I heard something. The service company said it was repaired." "Repaired isn't the same as cleared." Leon closed the main valve and asked everyone to step away from the oven bank. Stephen appeared on Sabrina's tablet again, his voice controlled and sympathetic. "Aging equipment makes this operation unsuitable. We should end the test before someone exaggerates an ordinary mechanical sound into a crisis." Leon did not respond to him. He removed the lower access panel with a screwdriver from Father Thomas's toolbox. Behind it, tied to a copper line with faded wire, was a service tag. The regulator had been replaced 8 months earlier, but the final inspection box was blank. "That tag may simply be incomplete," Sabrina said. "It may be." Leon photographed it in place. "So we verify it." He called the technician named on the old repair receipt. The man answered from another job site and asked Leon to point the camera toward the regulator. After watching the pressure needle tremble, he told them not to restart the oven. A seal had been installed, but the line had never passed its final pressure test. The room became still enough to hear the basement ventilation fan turning overhead. Sabrina slowly set her tablet on the stainless steel table. Stephen stopped speaking for several seconds, then said, "Let's handle this privately. There is no reason to make a routine maintenance omission look like systemic negligence." Leon replaced the panel without tightening the screws. "No one said systemic." Stephen's mouth hardened before his professional smile returned. The licensed technician arrived 16 minutes later, replaced the faulty fitting, tested the line twice, and filed the clearance through the county's electronic system. By then, the test window had nearly closed. Leon divided the dough into smaller batches, adjusted proofing time with Evelyn, and used only the cleared ovens. He never rushed the cooling racks. He never asked Jay to cross the taped line. When the 50th loaf reached the table, Sabrina selected 5 at random. Leon did not choose the best-looking ones for her. Each weighed within tolerance. Each met the required internal temperature. Each batch number matched the sanitation and proofing logs. Sabrina signed the quality sheet with her silver pen. The scratch of the nib across paper sounded louder than the whispers that had filled the bakery earlier. Jay looked at the signature, then at his father. His shoulders finally loosened. "Did we pass?" "The bread passed," Leon said. Sabrina looked at him differently now. "You stopped production knowing it could cost you the order." Leon wiped flour from the scale. "A deadline doesn't make gas less dangerous." She officially released the contract, packaging supplies, and access to the relief program's delivery trucks. Stephen congratulated her decision in a voice so smooth it almost concealed the strain beneath it. Of course, one controlled batch does not demonstrate full-scale capacity. "No," Leon said. "That's what the next 950 are for." Sabrina's phone vibrated 3 times. 3 separate flour distributors had rejected Foster Bakery within the same 4-minute window. She opened the messages side by side. Different logos, different account managers. The exact same sentence appeared in all 3. Unacceptable operational exposure. Leon looked from the words to the quality sheet. Stephen should not yet have known was 17 minutes late, and the first successful batch no longer looked like the end of a test. It looked like the moment someone behind the system realized Leon had survived it. The 3 rejection notices sat side by side on Sabrina's tablet, each carrying a different company logo and the same phrase: unacceptable operational exposure. She read the sentence again while the first 50 loaves cooled behind her. "Different distributors," she said. "Same wording. Same 4-minute window," Leon replied. The ventilation fan turned above them, pushing warm air and the smell of yeast through the church basement. Ahmed Khan entered carrying 2 sacks of flour and a small gray recording box wrapped in a grocery bag. A black sedan stopped across the street but did not turn off its headlights. "They called my store," Ahmed said. "The system records business calls automatically." Stephen's face remained visible on Sabrina's tablet. "Be careful," he said. "A private recording may violate policy." Leon looked at him. "Whose policy?" Stephen adjusted his silver tie. "The company's." "Ahmed doesn't work for your company." The room went quiet. Ahmed placed the recording box on the stainless steel table but kept one hand over it. His fingers trembled once before becoming still. "My wife and I built that store for 14 years, he said. "They told me I would lose my largest account if I sold flour to Leon." Leon did not ask him to play the file. "You can walk away," he said. "I'll put in writing that I asked you to protect your business." Ahmed looked toward the sedan outside, then at the 2 flour sacks near his feet. "And what happens the next time they decide someone else should not be allowed to buy?" He removed his hand. Sabrina connected the box to a laptop belonging to the independent audit team. The recording began with the soft electronic beep of a transferred call. Then the scrape of a chair and a man's voice speaking through compression. The caller never said his full name. He promised Ahmed preferred vendor status if Foster Bakery received no flour before 6. "Let the small shop fail on its own," the voice said. "Once the emergency is visible, purchasing can approve the replacement." Stephen leaned closer to his camera. "That could be anyone." "It could," Leon said. "So don't name anyone yet." Sabrina glanced at him, surprised by the restraint. Leon was watching the timestamp, not Stephen's face. The call had begun 4 minutes after the SG-17 restriction was created. Her outside auditors confirmed that the code originated from a login session on Stephen's office computer. Stephen immediately replied that assistants sometimes used his workstation. His voice remained polished, but a thin line of moisture appeared above his collar. A printer near the office table began feeding out documents. Page after page slid into the tray until the machine stopped, leaving the final sheet halfway exposed. The auditors had found the freight manifest for the relief program's flour shipment. The 3 trucks had not broken down. Their GPS records showed them leaving the approved route and traveling to a private convention center across town. The receiving company had been formed 7 months earlier. Its billing address matched the law office that handled Stephen's personal consulting contracts. Sabrina placed the manifest beside the blue order sheet. For several seconds, only the cooling racks clicked. This was not a supplier failure, she said. The inventory was redirected. Stephen's image froze briefly, then returned. Standard donor reallocation, he said. One auditor looked up. No one had yet told Stephen what the manifest showed. Leon reached into the old metal cash box he had brought from the bakery. Beneath permit copies and his wife's final medical receipts lay a printed email with softened folds. He placed it on the table without anger. Years earlier, he had warned the company ethics office about duplicated lot numbers, inflated invoices, and the same SG-17 code. The server receipt showed Stephen opened it at 8:06 on a Monday morning. Leon's termination decision had been created the following afternoon. Sabrina's electronic signature sat at the bottom. The color drained from her face. "Why didn't you appeal?" she asked. Leon touched the edge of the flour-stained recipe card in his pocket. "My wife had 6 weeks left." The fluorescent light reflected across the old email. Between them, "I chose where I was needed." He met Sabrina's eyes. That did not make them right. She did not apologize yet. Instead, she asked what he needed. "Protect the records before you protect the company," Leon said. Sabrina ordered a forensic copy of the purchasing servers, froze Stephen's access, and transferred the audit outside the corporate chain. Stephen's calm finally thinned. "Sabrina, do not turn a delivery problem into a public accusation. Then stop deleting vendor permissions while we are speaking," she answered. On the auditor's screen, another access attempt flashed and failed. Leon returned to the ovens. The families waiting at the relief hall still needed 950 loaves, and truth would mean little if hunger paid the price for exposing it. Then every light in the church kitchen went dark. The mixer wound down. The ventilation fan stopped. In the sudden silence, Leon opened the breaker panel with his phone light and found the emergency fuse resting on the floor instead of inside its slot. Someone had not overloaded the system. Someone had removed the part by hand, and the confrontation could no longer remain behind closed doors. By the time the emergency generator caught, Foster Bakery had become a room full of witnesses. The red clock above the counter read 5:18. Flour dust hung in the warm light, reporters stood near the front windows, and 2 members of Sabrina's board waited beside Stephen Grant, as if their presence could make his version of events official. Diana Moore held her metal clipboard against her navy jacket. Bruce Keller stood beside the mixer, one hand resting near the red collection tag. Leon entered last from the church basement, his apron darkened with sweat and his phone still displaying the temperature logs from the ovens. He did not look like a man arriving to win. He looked tired, pressed for time, and unwilling to leave the truth unattended again. Sabrina remained behind the counter with the independent auditors, but she did not speak first. Stephen did. "This review is necessary because Mr. Foster moved production into an unapproved facility, accepted flour from an unverified source, and placed volunteers, including a child, inside an unsafe operation." A murmur crossed the bakery. Stephen raised one hand gently. "No one is questioning his intentions. Good intentions simply do not replace compliance." For a moment, the explanation held. Diana opened her inspection packet and confirmed that the church kitchen had not been listed on Leon's original bakery permit. Bruce added that a financially distressed owner had every incentive to cut corners. One board member looked toward the empty racks and asked whether any of the promised 1,000 loaves had reached the relief hall. "Not all of them," Stephen answered before Leon could speak. The room tightened. It sounded like failure. Leon set the blue order sheet on the counter first. Sabrina's signature sat beneath the handwritten pantry amendment, and the delivery terms allowed approved auxiliary production under documented safety controls. "That paper proves an order," Stephen said. "It does not prove safe production." Leon placed the service log beside it. The licensed technician's number, electronic filing time, and county confirmation were visible under the bakery lights. Diana barely glanced down. "That document was completed after my inspection." "No," Leon said. He laid Jay's camera on the counter but did not call the boy forward. Jay remained across the street in the church office with Evelyn, safely away from the crowd. Sabrina connected the camera to a monitor. The opening day video showed the handwritten open sign, the wall clock at 9:13, and Diana's county vehicle arriving a moment later. Then the report appeared beside it. Inspection completed at 8:42. A chair stopped scraping near the back wall. The air conditioner became suddenly loud. Diana's fingers tightened around her clipboard. "Consumer devices can carry incorrect time settings," she said. It was a reasonable objection, and for several seconds it seemed enough. Then one auditor displayed the bakery security camera, the traffic camera at the intersection, and the device metadata. All three placed Diana's arrival after 9. "A timestamp error is not corruption," Stephen said quickly. "At most, it is clerical." "Maybe," Leon replied. So we kept looking. He placed the 3 distributor rejection notices side by side. Different letterheads. The same phrase appeared on each: unacceptable operational exposure. Stephen gave a sympathetic smile. "Industry language repeats. That proves nothing." Sabrina finally spoke. "The phrase came from an internal purchasing template created by your department." Stephen's smile held, but the muscles along his jaw moved. He shifted the argument. Even if purchasing contacted vendors, it would have been to protect the relief program from an untested supplier. That is not retaliation. That is risk control. For the second time, the room seemed ready to accept his explanation. Leon did not challenge it with anger. He placed Ahmed's flour receipt beside the lot verification, then added the quality sheet from the 50-loaf test. Every weight, temperature, sanitation check, and signature aligned. "You called me a risk before the bread was tested," Leon said. "You blocked the flour after it passed." Stephen turned toward Sabrina. "This should be handled privately before incomplete records damage the company and everyone connected to it." "The last time it was handled privately," Leon said, "the person who reported the problem disappeared from the record." Bruce interrupted by lifting the red collection tag. "Whatever happened at the company, Mr. Foster still defaulted on this equipment." He presented the 4 o'clock deadline as proof that the mixer could legally be removed. Leon placed the original loan agreement on the counter. It read close of business. The auditor projected the payment portal log, showing the deadline had been changed that morning from Bruce's office account. Bruce's hand slowly lowered. Stephen looked toward the cameras for the first time. "We are losing sight of the central fact," he said. "Mr. Foster has not delivered 1,000 loaves. Until he does, this is a failed contract wrapped in accusations." Leon checked his phone. 86 loaves remained in the church cooling room, still above safe packaging temperature. The red clock read 5:37. Stephen knew the exact missing number, though it had never been entered into the company system. Sabrina noticed it too. She reached toward the auditor's laptop but stopped before opening the final preserved file. "There is one recording left," she said. "It has now been authenticated by the phone carrier." Stephen's face lost its practiced softness. On the screen behind him, the audio file loaded, and the progress bar waited at 0. The authenticated recording began with a carrier timestamp, a transfer tone, and Stephen Grant's voice stripped of every polished expression he had worn in public. "Create the shortage first. Once they panic, they'll approve whatever supplier I put in front of them." No one moved. The bakery's air conditioner clicked off, leaving only the faint hum of the monitor and the dry sound of Stephen swallowing. The recording continued. He promised Ahmed a preferred contract if Foster Bakery received no flour before 6. He named the replacement distributor, the same shell company listed on the redirected freight manifest. Then he said Leon's name. "Foster already has a risk file. If he complains, use SG-17. Stephen lifted one hand toward the laptop. "That file is being taken out of context." Sabrina did not look at him. "The carrier authenticated the complete call. People negotiate aggressively. You manufactured a food shortage." His mouth opened, but no answer came. On the counter, the blue order sheet lay beside Diana's 8:42 inspection report, Jay's camera, the service log, the 3 identical rejection letters, the altered loan deadline, Leon's old ethics email, and the termination decision bearing Sabrina's signature. Each item had once looked small enough to dismiss. Together, they formed a timeline no one in the room could bend. Then Leon's phone alarm sounded. The last 86 loaves were still cooling across the street. He turned away from Stephen before anyone could mistake the evidence for the end of his responsibility. Evelyn spread the racks farther apart. No stacking. Ahmed, take the east entrance to the relief hall. Father Thomas, confirm the receiving rule. Sabrina stared at him. Leon, this can wait. The families can't. At St. Thomas, warm air rolled from the kitchen as Evelyn redirected portable fans between the racks. Leon checked the internal temperature of each batch himself. He would not seal the paper bags while trapped heat could soften the crust or create condensation. The red clock moved past 5:50. Father Thomas returned with the answer. If the final delivery vehicle entered the relief center grounds before 6, receiving staff could finish scanning under the emergency distribution rule. At 5:56, Ahmed's truck pulled away carrying the first 43. Leon followed with the last racks once every thermometer reading fell inside the safe range. The relief hall appeared ahead under white floodlights. Families waited behind folding tables, their coats still on, children leaning against tired parents. Jay stood beside Evelyn in the public viewing area, safely beyond the loading line, holding his handwritten count sheet. He did not unload or touch the scanners. He only wrote the numbers called by the receiving staff. 998. The scanner beeped. 999. The digital wall clock changed to 5:59 as Leon crossed the threshold carrying the final loaf in a brown paper sleeve. A large black 1000, written in Jay's careful handwriting, covered the label. The receiving clerk weighed it, checked its batch number, and scanned the code. The machine gave one clear tone. Jay exhaled and lowered his marker. For a moment, applause rose through the hall. Sabrina raised her hand, and the sound slowly faded. On the projection screen behind her, the evidence appeared in order. Diana's false inspection time matched against the camera footage, SG-17 traced to Stephen's workstation. The recording box linked to the carrier log. The truck manifest matched to GPS data. Payments flowed toward the Shell distributor. Leon's warning email had been opened one day before he was fired. Sabrina stood beneath the company logo and faced the employees, board members, donors, reporters, and families. Leon Foster told this company the truth, she said. I signed the decision that punished him for it. The room went completely still. A paper cup tipped near the back row and rolled once across the floor. Diana's clipboard slipped against her coat. Bruce lowered the red collection tag until it hung beside his leg. Stephen looked toward the cameras, then away from them. Sabrina announced that Stephen was suspended, his access permanently frozen, and the evidence transferred to independent investigators and prosecutors. Diana's inspection authority was suspended pending review by the county and her licensing board. A judge had issued a temporary order blocking Bruce from taking the bakery equipment while the altered loan record was investigated. Then Sabrina turned to Leon. We called him difficult because he would not make dishonesty convenient. No one spoke. Leon did not smile at Stephen or look toward the cameras. He picked up loaf number 1000, walked past the corporate tables, and placed it in the hands of the mother who had received his first loaf that morning. Feed the children first, he said. Only after distribution began did the board offer him a senior position, compensation, and a public restoration of his title. Leon looked at Jay, at the family's opening warm bags, and at the list of other dismissed workers folded inside his apron. The truth had finally returned power to his hands. Now the entire room waited to learn whether he would take back one chair, or use that power to open the door for everyone the system had pushed outside. The relief hall emptied slowly, not with celebration but with the careful quiet of people carrying warm bread home. Folding chairs scraped against the floor, volunteers stacked empty crates, and the cameras were turned off one by one. Stephen was escorted to a private conference room while investigators secured his laptop and purchasing records. Diana surrendered her county badge pending review. Bruce left the red collection tag on the table after the court order blocked him from touching Leon's equipment. Leon did not watch any of them go. He stood beside Jay near the loading doors, checking that the last families had received their bags. "Are we still losing the bakery?" Jay asked. Leon crouched until they were eye level. "Not tonight. Because we made the bread? Because the truth had records." Jay thought about that, then slipped his hand into his father's. 3 months later, Foster Bakery still had the same narrow front window, the same hand-painted open sign, and the same repaired oven that clicked twice before settling into heat. The difference was not a new car outside or marble counters inside. It was the sound of people learning. At the back tables, single parents practiced shaping dough while Evelyn Carter moved between them with a clipboard, and the title training supervisor stitched over her apron pocket. Leon paid her for every hour. Father Thomas's church kitchen had been fully repaired, inspected, and reopened as a licensed community production space. Ahmed Khan's invoice was the first debt Leon cleared after the relief contract was paid. When Leon handed him the final check, Ahmed turned it over twice. "You could have waited. You stood beside me when waiting cost you something," Leon said. "That comes first." The investigations did not disappear into private settlements. Stephen's employment was terminated for procurement fraud, retaliation, and manipulating the relief supply chain. His financial records were transferred to prosecutors. Diana's inspection authority remained suspended while the county licensing board reviewed payments routed through the consulting company connected to Stephen. Bruce was ordered to restore the original loan terms, refund the altered penalties, and submit his lending practices to a consumer protection review. Sabrina released Leon's corrected personnel record publicly. It stated that his dismissal had followed a protected ethics complaint and that the accusations concerning his conduct had been unsupported. She also reopened the files of every former employee whose name appeared on the folded list Leon had carried in his apron. Some were offered reinstatement. Others received corrected references, back pay reviews, or written acknowledgement that allowed them to apply elsewhere without carrying Stephen's version of their history. Leon declined the corporate position. He accepted a transparent supplier contract instead, with independent audits, no exclusivity clause, and protection for workers who reported misconduct. "You could run an entire division," Sabrina told him when they signed. "I am running what I chose," he said. She did not argue. Sabrina's apology became more than a statement at a podium. She attended oversight meetings, answered questions from employees, and created an outside whistleblower board that reported beyond the purchasing department. When she visited the bakery, she waited until Leon finished with Jay before discussing business. She brought no expensive gifts. Sometimes she stayed after closing and helped fold paper bags while Leon checked tomorrow's orders. Trust did not arrive like the black SUV had. It came quietly, through promises kept often enough to stop feeling unusual. On the bakery wall, the blue order sheet was framed beside the flour-stained recipe card that read "Feed People First." Jay had written a small +1 after the number 1000. Every evening, one final loaf was placed in a brown bag for anyone who could not pay. The red collection tag was not displayed as a trophy. Leon kept it in a training binder used to teach new business owners how to read loan terms and preserve records when someone tried to change them. On the first morning of the bakery's paid apprenticeship program, Sabrina stood beside the proofing table and watched Evelyn instruct a laid-off warehouse worker, a widowed father, and a woman returning to work after years of caring for her mother. "You built all this from $400, Sabrina said. Leon shook his head. $400 bought flour. He looked at Ahmed stacking bags, Father Thomas checking the pantry list, Evelyn correcting a dough weight, and Jay taping the +1 label onto the last brown bag. People built this. No one answered for a moment. The silence was not shock. It was recognition. That evening, Leon switched off the oven, wiped the counter, and carried the final loaf across the street with Jay beside him. The blue order sheet glowed softly behind the bakery glass. No longer a demand that might destroy them, but a record of the day quiet character became public truth. Under the streetlights, father and son walked home without applause, while one small loaf waited at the pantry door. proof that dignity never needed to shout, and kindness had only been waiting for enough hands to become justice.